today, as you see in the title, we're going to do just a real quick overview of the Glock 40, G40 MOS, or I call it the G40 MOS or Glockzilla. Now, just kind of a little bit of history here. We had the Glock 20 there in the late 80s. I believe 89 is when the Glock 20 came about. And so we had the Glock 20, we had that 10mm platform and Glock. And then we had the Glock 29, which is like the subcompact. The subcompact 10mm. But is it really subcompact? It's in between the Glock 26, which is a subcompact, and the Glock 19, which is a compact. And it's much closer to Glock 19. In fact, it's thicker than the Glock 19 and the 26, of course, but just a little shorter barrel than the Glock 19 and just a little shorter of a handle than the Glock 19. So it's kind of in its own spot, the Glock 29 and the Glock 30. So you got two 10mm. Now, what people were doing, certain states, you can hunt with 357 Magnum and 10mm as long as you have a 6-inch barrel. Some states it doesn't matter. You can just hunt. I don't know what those states are. You have to look that up for yourself. But for instance, here in Washington, it needs to be a 6-inch barrel. And so the Glock 20 had the power, but it didn't have the barrel length. So what a lot of people were doing, Glock was providing a 6-inch barrel that you could swap and put in your Glock 20. Then you'd have some of the barrel hanging out a little bit there. Then aftermarket companies, Lone Wolf, all that good stuff. And they started making the 6-inch barrel for the Glock 20. So, after so long, what was it here? 2015? No, I think it came out early 2016. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive it came out early 2016. Is when people were actually getting their hands on it, customers. And what it did is now you have the 6-inch barrel in a complete gun, but there's differences from the Glock 20 to the Glock 40. So let me clear this. And some things I've done to my G40. Well, the mag there, you see that's a +2, so that's 17 rounds of 10mm. Okay, so that's cleared. Now, lots of cool things on the G40. Number one, the G40 MOS and all the ones I've seen have come with a adjustable rear sight here, and that's kind of needed when you're talking about a G40 MOS, because long barrel, it's an accurate son of a gun, and it's a sidearm for hunting. You can hunt with this gun, and so who knows, you might want to take that 100-yard shot with your pistol. So adjustable rear sights is needed. Now, I haven't really heard anyone else complain about this, but for me, here on the plate here, where you would unscrew these here to lift this off and put your red dot on, I was unscrewing these just to take them off and just kind of play with it. And this one unscrewed just fine, but when I went to unscrew this one, it stripped, and that sucked. So I can still get that out. I can put some super glue in there, put my tool in there, wait for a minute and then twist it off. that trick. But I'm putting that out there because it might be an issue for some others who get the G40 MOS. These stripping, and it can happen kind of easy. So just be careful about that. I did polish my barrel, and I've done things to the gun, but I'm going to speak to you as far as its stock configuration. You also have the beautiful thing about this. So the G40 MOS, the G41, and the Glock 34. Now this, and I'll get to the recoil in a minute, but this shoots so good you could shoot competition with this if you wanted to. It shoots that good. You could shoot competition with it. Now the trigger, it says on the box, it says 4.5 pound trigger, straight from the factory. So it's not the normal 5.5 pounds that Glock has in most of their guns. These are like basically the type competition type model. So the triggers are a little better. And so the beautiful thing about it is I tested this, and it's actually not 4.5 pound trigger. It's a 3.9 pound trigger. Factory, straight from the factory. So that's awesome. I mean, at least in my eyes, it's awesome. Now I did upgrade the trigger, so it's different. I did stipple it. I had a buddy of mine stipple it, and so I got a much better grip. So those are just my my upgrades. But let me get to the overall feel. Now, first of all, you got the same amount of rounds as the Glock 20, so you got a 15 round mag. I put a +2 on mine, so I carry 17. I also have 30 round mags for these. And people who know me, they know I make the 30 round mags for them. Also, now as far as the shooting experience, let me get to that. I don't, it's kind of hard to explain, and I am not over exaggerating. I'm probably going to under exaggerate here. The way this feels, just not even shooting yet, just that. I have never, ever in my life felt a Glock that felt like that. It glides. It feels like it's running on wheels. That's what it feels like. Very, very nice, slick, smooth wheels. It feels like on all sides, all the way up here and all the way in the back, it's running on wheels. That's literally what it feels like. There's no other Glock that feels like that. Okay. The other thing is that you don't have in other Glocks. As you see here, you don't have the guide rod is not coming up to the end of the barrel. Okay. The guide rod stops right here. Alright, it stops right here. And I don't know exactly what that does or what it's doing, but it floats. When this thing is shooting, it's floating. I can shoot this thing all day. Okay, there's a big difference between when you shoot a Glock 20, a Glock 29, you shoot this. It almost feels like you're shooting a completely different caliber. That's how different it is. The slide is made out of a slightly different coating than the other guys, and I think the Gen 5 started using this coating. And let's see here, what else is there? A couple just random things. I did shoot 40 caliber out of this gun just to see how that would feel. I loaded up a mag of a 40 Smith & Wesson, and this thing ate it all the way through. And amazingly, it feels so soft. it feels like I'm shooting a 380. You know, like it's just really soft when it's shooting. I had to stop and take a look at the gun and check it after I shot it a couple times. Like, did this thing completely cycle? It was very smooth shooting, so it can do that. I believe the 29 and the 20 can do the same thing. Let's see here. What else do we have? I know as far as taking it down, taking it apart, all that, absolutely nothing is different from any other Glock. All that good stuff is the same. The accuracy is amazing. The accuracy is amazing, but you would expect that from a 6-inch barrel, right? You have a very far sight radius, and yes, it is amazingly accurate. But that's the beauty in shooting this gun is you have minimal recoil. It feels smooth when you're shooting it. It's just coming straight back. You're not getting a crazy snap. It's just coming back, and it just makes the shooting experience great. Now, the only thing I could think of that would be like a negative, it's not, and I can't really call it a negative, but it's kind of expected. It's a very large slide, but sometimes when I'm shooting, I'll shoot it, and upon letting go of the reset, I can feel the slide going back home. It's not happening as fast as, you know, a Glock 17, for instance. The cycling rate, it's a little slower, and I don't know if maybe a instead of a 17-pound guide rod, maybe a 19 or a 20-pound guide rod would fix that. But in other words, a Glock 17 in full auto would run 1,200 rounds per minute. The way this thing functions when you're shooting it, I would say that this thing would probably run maybe 400 to 500 rounds slower, like 800 rounds per minute. That might sound drastic, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. But besides that, it's beautiful, man. Everything else is Glock. Everything else is Glock, and but it's just that step up from Glock. You know, I bought this for $700. You have it's Glockzilla all the way. It is the most powerful mass-produced Glock ever made. Period. And the fact that it shoots so smooth, shooting 10 millimeter that smooth, making the shooting experience that good. And you know, several females have shot this and had no problems, whereas when they shot the Glock 29, they put it down, said, I'm done, you know. But they had no problems with this. They could keep on shooting it. This thing is a freak of nature. It is not your average Glock. It is an advanced pistol. It's an advanced Glock altogether. You have a better trigger. You have amazing accuracy. The feel of the slide and the recoil is something that you've never felt in a Glock before. Period. And that is enough. You know, so if you are a hunter, there's no, what are you waiting on? If this is just something you just want to have, I understand that too. You can compete with this. Like, seriously, pick a gun up, pick up one of these, go shoot it, and then make that decision. You can shoot competition with these, even if you want to shoot 40 caliber through it. Like I said, it functions fine. You know, this thing is just amazing, crazy accurate. That's the other thing. Reliability, just like Glock. No difference. This is, I've put maybe 1,500 rounds through this. Nothing. Zero, zilch. This thing is flawless so far. 1,500 is not a lot. And I'll update more. But just 1500, nothing. There are some guns that will have some problems within those 1500 rounds. This did not at all, nothing. It didn't even act like it. This thing is just smooth butter. It's crazy. So that's what I got for the Glock 40 G40 MOS 10 millimeter Glockzilla. Whammy out.